Welcome to Sports Court. I'm Tamara Holder. Well, there's no lack of storylines going into Super Bowl 50 this Sunday. From the young hotshot Cam Newton taking on veteran player and my favorite guy in the whole wide world, Peyton Manning, what might be his final game, to critics raising questions over Cam Newton's touchdown celebrations, and then on to the scandalous, like a Denver Broncos player sent home from Santa Clara after being questioned in a prostitution sting. Joining me from LA to talk all football and all Super Bowl is Fox News' Adam Housley. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having us.
All right, so first question. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head in the opening. I mean, you've got the young, you've got the new style of quarterback to the more pocket passer, old style. You have one team that has a lot of swag. You had another team that had a lot of controversy with changing quarterbacks. And, of course, as you mentioned, one of the guys going home for a prostitution sting. So you've got two definitely distinctively different teams and situations. And I think most people are hoping it doesn't go back to the Super Bowls of old where there used to be blowouts, and unfortunately several times that involved Denver. They're kind of hoping it's more one of the more modern Super Bowls, which, as you know, the last few years they've been very competitive. So I think a lot of people are kind of hoping that at the very least the game's close.
Okay, well, we don't want to talk about points and spreads here. We want to talk about the personalities. What do you think of Cam Newton's personality, from his smile to the dabbing and to all of that?
I think a lot of people make it more political than it really is. I mean, people have made it racial as well than it really is. I mean, it comes down to whether this guy's a black quarterback or a white quarterback, he has swag, and that's going to turn some people off. Just like it did when you had Colin Kaepernick with the 49ers a couple of years ago with the way he flexed after touchdowns. You're always going to have naysayers. This guy is controversial. He's done things in the past. Some of the sports writers don't like him because he used to pout and be difficult after losses. So you have all these other things that come into play, and now they're winning. So, and people sometimes like to go after the teams that are doing so well, and his team's obviously doing well. And then you have, on the other side of the coin, you have Peyton Manning, of course, who is a guy who's pretty beloved by a lot of the sports world and sports writers in general. His swan song, he's definitely the underdog. He went from being the starting quarterback to on the bench to coming back and kind of resurrecting the team in the playoffs. So you definitely have two different energies there when you're talking about the quarterbacks in general, and for that matter, the teams.
So you brought up Peyton Manning, who is really my favorite quarterback, besides John Elway, of course. I'm wondering, I want to focus really on the personalities and Peyton Manning's head. The fact that he was the subject of this Al Jazeera report, of course, Al Jazeera is now defunct here in America, but right. There is possibly an investigation into this HGH that was apparently sent to his house, addressed to his wife, but there was a larger amount of it than what she could use. Do you think that mentally is going to affect his game?
I mean, it could play into it a little bit. I think once the game starts, that all goes out the window. I mean, he's used to, of course, having to deal with stuff. Obviously not as controversial as that, but, there's always been the question, can you beat Tom Brady? And there's been other things that I think would probably take his mind off of the game more than something like that. Obviously, it's concerning, I think, to a lot of people in the sports world. I'm not saying it's right in any way. I will say that it's more widely used, I think, than people have ever realized, and continues to be so. And that does come into play here. Also, you got to take into account the report itself. I mean, were there other people that have come out with anything like this? It's really only been that one Al Jazeera report at this point.
Right, but to your point, but to your point, the fact that you believe, and so do I, through our sources and whatnot, that HGH has been used or is being used by other players, not necessarily saying that Peyton Manning did or did not do it, but the fact of the matter is that the NFL hasn't ever suspended anybody for HGH use, correct?
Right, and here's the problem, too, Tamara. You kind of hit the nail on the head in some respects. When you look at sports, you see how the media has so scrutinized baseball, for example. Not because I'm a baseball fan. I actually love all sports, but they've really scrutinized baseball with HGH. I mean, Barry Bonds and the investigations and all the outcry and the rage towards baseball players using HGH. Football's got to pass. Right. It really has. No pun intended. Football has used it in a more, from what we've been told, in a more widespread way than baseball ever did. And it makes sense. These guys are out there. It's a collision sport. And so you wonder, how, why the NFL hasn't addressed this more, and again, did he really commit any crimes if he did at all, NFL or otherwise?
Right.
So I don't know how much this really plays into his mindset. I mean, he's going up against a team that's incredibly hot right now with the new age quarterback. I mean, and again, this is probably going to be his last game. If anything, that's going to play in his mind more than anything else, is that this could be his last game ever in professional football.
Well, somebody who didn't escape getting in trouble and somebody who's also not going to be there is Ryan Murphy, the practice squad player who was cut and then picked up by the Broncos, sorry. My other favorite team is the Bears. For prostitution, I don't know if you saw the pictures, but he was at this really creepy motel. His brother got arrested. He only got questioned and released. He did not get ticketed or arrested or anything. What do you think was the right move here? The fact that some people say, look, he didn't get in trouble. He didn't, well, get in trouble is for lack of a better word. He didn't get arrested.
Right.
Versus, we can't deal with this, so we're going to send you home.
Well, I think the team did the right thing. I mean, it's practice squad player, first of all. You don't want anything to detract from the game whatsoever at all. And secondly, as we know with the NFL and with Major League Baseball, you don't have to be charged with anything to get in trouble. If you're in the wrong place at the wrong time
Unless
well,
you're,
again,
some other players that get a pass. But do you think that his
some
career's
do, but here's
done?
the thing: if you're a player, I don't know if it's done, but if you're on the bubble, that's the other thing. I mean, as a former player myself in baseball, I can tell you, I was always a bubble player. I wasn't the superstar.
Right.
If you're on the bubble, yeah, you're held to a different scrutiny. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is in life anyway. So you know that. So you really got to make sure you keep your nose clean because, like, I don't have not that those guys should get a free pass, but they are going to have a little bit longer rope. And so if you're somebody who is a superstar on that team and you're not arrested, yeah, you're probably going to get fined and get in trouble. If you're a guy that's really menial to the team and you're out there doing something stupid before a Super Bowl, you're going to go home. And that's what happened here. And honestly, I don't think his career is over, but I guarantee you some teams will not look his way. If it comes down to him and another guy, they're going to go with the other guy.
Right. He's going to have to work a little harder. Okay, so before we wrap, just pick one team, the Broncos or the Panthers. Tell me right now, and then we've got to close this up.
I'm a Niners fan, first of all. I want the Broncos, but the Panthers I think will win.
That was not a one-word answer.
I know. I'm on TV. Can't give one-word answers.
All right, Panthers,
well,
I take Broncos.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
All right, friendly bet. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you all for watching. Sports Court is adjourned.